Hello and welcome to another Friday edition of MTDCNC on the road. This is the programme or the podcast that's broadcast and filmed every Friday and is released at 6 p.m. across our channels. It's where we go into detail about what we've done in the week that's just elapsed, where we've been, what we've learned, what we've seen, and also some of the things that have been on the news. We're going to talk about football today, of course. Why wouldn't we, and how couldn't we? And we also talk about where we're going to be next week and what we're up to. In today's edition, I'm joined by just one person. I've normally got two, but unfortunately the guys are all over the country today, with it being Friday and obviously things busy at the moment. I've just got Giovanni Albanese with me. Gio, how you doing? You all right?
Yeah, good afternoon, Paul. Really well, thank you.
Good. Now, you'll see if you're watching this that, of course, I'm wearing an England shirt and Gio's wearing a blue shirt, which isn't an English one, it's an Italian one. And we're wearing these because both teams have progressed into the quarterfinals. Italy playing tonight, England playing tomorrow. Now, if all things go according to plan, we could meet... or the teams could meet in the final, couldn't they? And you were at Italy on Saturday, weren't you? Now, it must be clear to say that you've got allegiances to both teams, but you're just wearing the blue for the sake of this podcast. Would that be right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Paul, I'll be over the moon if England or Italy win, and my children will be too. So they're probably more of an English fan so far than an Italian fan. But yeah, it's been a brilliant tournament so far.
And how was the game? Because you went to the game last Saturday when Italy just managed to, and I don't mean this facetiously, if that's the right word, managed to scrape through, didn't they? I say scrape through, you were almost lost. I saw Austria scored in the second half, didn't they? And it was just ruled out by VAR. But
yeah, Paul, you're absolutely right. I mean, I believe they probably peaked a little bit too early. They played really well in their group stages and they just didn't turn up against Austria at all. They were very lucky to get away with that. And They just didn't show the passion or desire that they did in the first three games. They got away with one there, definitely.
Did they scored in extra time, didn't they?
They scored two in extra time. They played okay first half.
Was it Morata that scored or in the that's the Spain guy.
It was Inzaghi. Inzaghi scored one. It was a good second half. Good second half. Well, good extra time for Italy. But yeah, it's a big game tonight. It's a really big game for Italy tonight. I think Belgium are probably one of the best teams in the world, especially where they've been ranked by FIFA as one of the best teams.
They are number one, aren't they?
Statistically,
well, it depends to me. I've been listening this morning to Talk Sport. It anchors, I think, on two players, Hazard and who's the other one that's for Belgium that might be injured? Hazard and not Lukaku. There's another one, I can't remember the. But anyway, anchoring on those two backbones of the team, and they may not be playing. And if they're not playing, then I think things fall in your favour.
They're leaving it to the last minute to make a decision on them two players. It slips my mind as well.
De Bruyne,
that's the one. So he's leaving it to the very last minute. But I mean, both teams now have gone 4 games without losing, won 4 games on the trot. Both teams have won 14 games on the trot. In the European Championship.
Have they met before?
Recently? Yeah, they've met before in the past, and there's one good thing that's going for Italy, that in past tournaments that they've met 4 times and Italy have won every one, or they've not lost to Belgium in a major tournament. So that's one thing that's going in their favour. But you just never know. You just never know. It's going to be a big game tonight.
I do think that Italy may have it just because they might manage the game better. As a nation, they're used to this level of football, and I think Belgium, the expectations have been so high for so long that what's going to happen on the day. It's like England, isn't it? It's exactly like England.
It's like a chess match.
On Tuesday, I was fortunate enough. You were there, obviously, on Saturday. I was at Wembley on Tuesday. And that was a masterclass of game management. Now, it could have gone completely wrong, but the game management was just absolutely spot on. I still think the performance was pretty poor. I think both Germany and England were pretty poor. I don't think we've been tested in any way, shape or form yet, which I think Italy have. Austria, bear in mind, they beat Ukraine, didn't they? But actually, Ukraine are a good side as well. So I'm a little bit...
Austria played well. Austria did play very well. And I totally agree with you. I think Martinez and Mancini, if you put them head to head, I would definitely favour Mancini's tactics 100%. And I think it could boil down to very fine margins, 100%. It's going to be a tight game. And with the England game, Paul, I think that, I'd love to have come with you to that one as well, but I've got to do some work. But I watched that game and I was impressed. I was impressed with how solid they were. And I think that, it could have gone either way. But Germany, how they played against Portugal especially, I thought that they come out all guns blazing. And like you said, game management, I don't think England allowed them to play the way in which they wanted to. I think England just
took the stick. They made it a boring game. The first half, it was... I mean, I left at 42 minutes and went in the bar because the first half was so poor. But the second half, I just think we just slowly up it was almost like Gareth had said, this is what I'm going to do, and if it works, brilliant. And luckily it did. Yeah. Tomorrow night, different sketch for us, I think. You've got the heat of Rome. It's going to be warm, I would imagine.
It's very hot.
No fans. You've got a Ukrainian team that are they've got no expectations, and they've got 2 or 3 very, very good players.
I do fancy England. I do fancy them getting to the final, Paul. I really do. Yeah.
I hope you're right. Anyway, let's like listening to Talk Sport. So anyway, on with what we've been up to this week. Certainly a couple of things in the news this week that there's always loads of stuff in the news, but 2 things that have been really good is the Nissan unveiled the 1 billion flagship electric vehicle hub investment to create EV manufacturing ecosystem, a world first EV manufacturing ecosystem, which could create a record-breaking, thousands of jobs, we're led to believe. And you can hear more about that and see more about that on the MTD MFG channel. Other news on MTDCNC this week, one that really stood out to me, is Fanuc have just installed their 750,000th industrial robot, which it's a lot of robots, isn't it? But you've got to admit, when you watch the TV and you watch these stories about Nissan and all the rest of it, you see these robots loading things, they tend to be yellow, don't they?
Absolutely.
It's taking nothing away from other robot manufacturers, but they are doing pretty well. They produce around 8,000 industrial robots every month at their factory in Japan. So obviously, a very busy business. In fact, I'm there on Monday, so I'm looking forward to that. So let's start with where we were this week. We've had some really, really terrific things go on this week. I mean, the first thing was on Monday, Lindsay was at Merc Aerospace, where I was hoping to make this visit some weeks ago, but some things changed, and I couldn't actually get up north where they are. But they've just installed their 5th Matsuura in 5 years. One every year. And I think what's interesting here is they started with the MX520 and they've kind of then increased into the automation side. So they've gone up to the MAMs and the 330s with the pallet system. They had 11 spindles before, which they've now reduced to just 5 with Matsuura, and they're making more parts than ever. Now that's a good... I suppose that's good evidence of a story that actually says what we tend to talk about a lot, isn't it? Where you've got a lot of spindles and you've got, you're not making the most of them. Get fewer and make more. It's a good...
I think that, they pride themselves on keeping that spindle running, don't they, with the pallet systems that they offer on the Matsuuras. I mean, they're just money-making machines, and it's I used to visit Merc years and years ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, years and years ago I used to visit them, and they have definitely grown significantly, and I like the way that in which they work there. Their parts are not all high volume parts, but they're still getting that productive rate out of their machine tools, and they're keeping them running 24/7. I think it's...
So it's Merc Aerospace. Is it aerospace parts, or do they do a lot more than that? Can you remember from your visit?
I think it's predominantly aerospace parts. I'm not sure if they go and do any other work in different industries. Predominantly aerospace parts.
And why are they called Merc, do you know?
Not sure.
Is it a case of the Mercedes name, the Merc car is known for this, and so we're going to
not sure about that one, Paul, but great. They use a lot of Hoffman stuff as well. I mean, they're really kind of, with the vending solutions, another one of our clients, so they're always looking to become more efficient in any way, shape and form that they can.
What I like about this story is the evolution from the single table 5-axis up to the 5-axis machine with a pallet system. And again, it's another 330 that's going into the field. It is a good point to make at this point, though. It isn't just Matsuura that are selling these pallet machines at the moment. There is pretty much everywhere I'm going. I've been to Mills CNC this morning, which we'll touch on later on the show. They're selling a lot of their machines with automation, it's becoming, I know we keep talking about it, but it's becoming a standard, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's almost like you could sell a piece of kit now with automation and say, if you don't want it, you need to take it off.
Paul, I can remember when I joined MTD, we were kind of talking about automation all the time, on how it wasn't being adopted in the UK and how everyone else around the world was adopting it more. That's changing now.
It is. And long may that continue as well. And it doesn't cost jobs either. We go to so many places where they're employing more people as a result of their business growing because they've adopted.
Creates better
automation.
jobs.
It creates better jobs, yeah. Tuesday, Geo, you're at Brown & Holmes. Yeah, this crops up a lot on our list. And Hainbuch, sorry. Hainbuch.
Yeah. We went to Hainbuch, and it's a really great story, this is. I went to meet Nick and Dave, and we're looking at the evolution of work holding. So we looked at how their company started with spring collets and making spring collets, and now they've just continuously evolved, and it's a nice theme, moving on from what you've just mentioned, but with their solution now, it is really market leading in what they supply, and now they've also got some fantastic solutions for milling machines and that can be automated too. So whether you're looking to automate the lathe, not just automate the components and change the components over, but also automate the setups, whether it be on a milling machine and palletize the setups or on a lathe. So there's some real nice...
I've seen a lot of exhibitions where they've got robots working in conjunction with their systems, loading and changing collets and things like that. Are they getting any success with that in the UK? Are you seeing systems like that, or are you seeing systems where, okay, they're still automated, but they're manually changing the parts?
I've not seen it enough. If I'm being, I've not seen it enough. It still needs to grow a lot more. The solution is there. It's available. It works. It's simple, as you would expect from an Hainbuch product. But again, it's not being utilised enough. They've got such a large array now of 0 point systems for the milling machines too, which you'll see on next Friday's Swarf and Chip show, so that the people that are watching this podcast can find out more. But I can't.
Is this like the Manock system for the milling side?
The Manock system is the manual chuck that you can use on a 5th axis machine. So you know how you kind of prepare a billet for a centric gripper on a 5th axis machine? You could prepare a big billet, whether it be square, prismatic or round, by simply just turning a boss on it and then putting it into the Manock. The 0 point system is a palletized system where you'd have the base that permanently stays onto the machine bed, and then your top plate, so the robot can change the top plate too. The solutions that they got are very simple and they really just work.
I can see why with the robots. I can understand why there would be maybe a reticence to use a robot to change collets and things, because it is really taking things to the next level.
Yeah.
But I think once you've done it and you implemented it and you got used to the fact that actually you've got a set of collets and however, and it's being changed, you would quickly go.
It's so simple.
You look at it and go, really, do I need a robot to change that, kind of do that myself? But actually, the more you get someone in there doing these things, the less competitive.
It wouldn't surprise me, Paul. We'll be having this conversation again in a year's time, and it'll be used, in a lot more places than it currently is. I think it's something that maybe we need to kind of do more videos on.
I think you should see if you can get the guys to take you. You can go by boat, but I went to the Hainbuch factory in Germany. It must have been about 4 years ago. Nick went with Nick and one of his colleagues, and I tell you what, we had a really, really good trip over there. They've got a terrific factory where they make everything. You can see them turning, grinding, assembling all of their parts. You can see the stock of all of their collets and the different solutions that they've got. It really is a big outfit, but it needs to be to support the global market. I mean, look at how well Tony's doing with Hainbuch in the States as well. Everywhere he goes, he's talking about quick change.
It's such a big brand now, and I think it's just simplicity through design. They've designed such a fantastic solution that's so simple to use, that works. And I mean, even for the evolution of gears, for example. I mean, gear manufacturing in the UK is quite big at the minute. And, with their expanding mandrel systems as well, something that maybe some people might not be aware of. Obviously, you can use the expanding mandrels as a modular system on the lathes, but you can also use them on hobbing machines, on milling machines, so they've got solutions for pretty much every application. And unfortunately, I think that they're such a household name for collet chucks that people just think of Hainbuch as the people to go to for collet chucks and might not be necessarily aware of everything else that they do.
Which is our job to educate, which you do a brilliant job of, Gio. Just before we talk about Wednesday, I just want to mention some of the videos that have been released on the website this week. A whopping 25 new technology videos have hit our channel over the last 7 days. We've had videos from Haas reviewing their ST40 machine, which in fact, the podcast last week came from Haas's workshop in Leicester. We've had videos from GOM, which of course you've been involved in, Gio, from Zeiss as well, from Walter Tools. We've had videos from the Techno Group in Rugby, Roscomac down on the south coast, Zeiss, if I haven't mentioned that one already, Horn and Makino. So plenty of stuff, and not forgetting Goering as well. Plenty of new videos added to the channel in the last 7 days. Now on Wednesday this week, with a bit of a sore head, Joe and myself embarked on a live show at the Engineering Technology Group working with Blum. I've got to say, I think it was probably one of the best ones we've done so far in terms of the interactivity and the engagement. Questions were coming thick and fast about how in-process measuring can help, how it works, what accuracies it achieves, what things affect it. The whole aim of the event was to really show how you could take a part and machine it from start to finish and check the size of it. If it's made a mistake, recheck the size of it, remachine, check the surface finish of the part, also set all the tools, and all of this was done in process. It's on our YouTube channel. It was a really good 45-minute session, so you can find that by visiting our YouTube channel. If you're watching this now, you'll be able to just navigate your way through and see it. Really worth a watch. I thought I knew a lot about probing, but I certainly know more now than I did then, and I've got to say that's down to a few things. Obviously, firstly, Blum's technology, but David Mould, you watched it. How good was he on that show? I'm not taking anything away from Steve Brown. He was brilliant and they were the hosts. But David knew his stuff so much, didn't he?
He really impressed me. He was very technical. You could tell he was passionate about his products. He knew his product inside out. And if you were someone that's not used probing before, you'd want to go out and buy probing for your machine tool. He broke down a lot of barriers to entry in regards to probing. It's one of them products, like so many out in the field, that gets overlooked, in my opinion. We don't really need it, we can do without it, we don't need it to manufacture the part, but in fact it can really save you a lot of money and time, which ultimately, reducing cost per part is should be everyone's goal.
Yeah. Well, we even said to him at the start, do you want to know the kinds of questions? I mean, I had 2 A4 bits of paper which I'd looked at the day before and thought things I want to find out and research. No, I'm not. Just ask me on the start. I know most people go, yeah, what are you going to ask? What are you going to ask? But he was so confident and ready to answer anything. One of the things that I wanted to try and get across early on, which he did in fairness as well, was the fact that some people argue it's better to set tools off the machine as opposed to on the machine. And of course, he sits in the camp of firmly setting tools on the machine using tool setting, and how fast it can actually be to set them on the machine, and the benefits of setting the tools on the machine if there's if a tool wears and you need to come back and double check it, they're things you can't do if you have to take tools out of the carousel and off the machine to recheck them and put them in. So it was a very, very valuable exercise. And even measuring things like surface finish, I didn't think you could get a stylus that would be able to do that as well. And it was fascinating to hear.
I think it's imperative, to use this kind of technology in certain industries. I mean, I've used it in the past for lots of different reasons. Sometimes, say for example, you were loading castings into a work holding device, because there's variance in the castings. If you weren't using, say, a centric gripper where it brings the casting into the middle, if you were using a fixture, for example, with a fixed jaw, then the datum point is always going to move, because if the casting is varying in size, the datum point is going to move. So you could also not only align the part or the casting, which can rotate your program accordingly, but it can recheck and put your datums into your program so that every single part is being machined correctly. So, for example, the right meat is around the features, if that makes sense, on a casting, for example. But there was so many different ways I used probing for, and again, to check tools, etc.
In your days, Gio, how? Because I mean, going back to when I was on a machine, I never had the the probe end like they've got these days. I mean, measuring parts was done with a vernier, even a digital caliper. If I was lucky.
Well, when I first started out, Paul, as a tool maker, when I first got onto the CNCs with 4-axis rotary table, when we were making special cutting tools. On the rotary table, it was like say for example a U-drill. So you had to clock the U-drill to make sure it was perfectly in the middle and set the Y datum. Yeah. So I'd use a clock. Yeah. To set, and then you'd get the mirror on the other side and make sure it's 0, 0.
Yeah.
But then when I went into the aerospace industry, that wasn't too long after
that.
Table
and machined it.
Well, the probe would be in the program.
Yeah.
The probe would be in the program, so it would come in, and before it does any machining, it probe the part to reset the datums.
Yeah.
So, for example, if it was just slightly out for whatever reason, it would reset that datum because of the level of accuracy that was required on the part.
Yeah, it really was a brilliant event, and I've got to say, as I said at the start of this, go onto our YouTube channel to watch it. Plenty of more lives coming up as well in the near future. I've also got to mention Monard Precision, where Colin and Chloe were this week. They also went to see Martin at Hydrofeed as well. They were filming at both of those destinations. So we'd had at that, and that just sums up Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. Now on Thursday, the team were at Monard Precision, which I believe is down in Gloucester, where I think they've just had a couple of new XYZs installed to reduce the bottlenecks in production, and they wanted to keep their cycles running longer. Now they've bought some 750 LR machines. Now the LR machines are the linear rail machines that have been brilliant sellers for XYZ. I know the guys at XYZ, they used to sell just the box guideway VMCs, and it was always, if you want a VMC, it's got to be a box guideway. It's the HD version. They introduced the LR thinking that there was a market for it. They found a market there. They've not lost any market share on the HD. They've just grown their market share on the LR. So it's been a brilliant introduction. That product has, and equally that's another company that has purchased one. Apparently, Richard there said, right spec, right machine, right price, fast delivery. You don't really need to say any more than that.
No, I think he's doing very well, isn't he?
So that was Thursday. Friday, now that's today. Now I've been at Mills CNC this morning, actually done a couple of really good interviews with Rich Wilson and Tony Dell. I was talking to Rich Wilson about their DVF 6500 machine, which is a 5-axis machining centre. Their go-to 5-axis range now, the DVF. They do a DVF 5000 and they do a DVF 8000. The 8000 you can swing a metre and it turns as well. But the DVF range is... Well, you know Rich Wilson. I mean, it was great to interview Rich today because he's been at Mills now a year.
Well, that's gone fast.
It's gone, hasn't it gone fast? He's been there a year, and I wanted to not really necessarily just promote the technology. Everybody knows about Doosan's technology and how many machines they sell and where they're made and what makes them good and Mills' backup and support. But I really wanted to extract Rich's journey in the last 12 months because, I mean, he's entered into this business in COVID, and it's been like, how do you grow a territory?
He's a good salesperson.
He is very good. He is very good. But how do you grow a territory when you can't visit people? And if you can visit them, they don't know you maybe, so they're not going to welcome you as much as they would someone else. But it was just great to get his take on how he's fitted in at Mills and how he's sold a lot of machines, and he's done that because of the technology, but because of the support, the setup, and the service that's allowed him to do that as well. And I've got to say, looking at their 5-axis, their DVF machine, it is perfectly positioned to become a big seller for them. You can add the AWC on it, which is like the auto work changer. So you can have this sort of 10 pallet system on it. You can have up to 120 tools as well. So if you do opt for the pallet system, you've got enough tools to be able to make...
When's the video coming out, Paul?
So the videos should be out. In fact, I did a couple of shorter pieces. They'll be out within the next 2 or 3 days. But Richard's interview will probably be a week to 10 days.
Brilliant.
But it was the first time we managed to get Richard on camera, and I do believe that will be a really good review on a machine, and for people in the market for 5-axis, because we all know at the moment that machine tools are selling well, but stock is getting harder to come across, and a good 5-axis machine available immediately, they have
it's
them there.
the same with the car industry at the minute, that you cannot buy a brand new car at the minute because of the chip problem that's going on around the world. You just can't buy cars. There's massive lead times on cars, and I think that going back to Rich Wilson, I think that the game has changed, hasn't it? Paul, in regards to how you sell.
Yeah.
And you've got to change with it. It's no longer the same game.
He was saying he was having to go and meet people in car parks to sign up orders and stuff because he couldn't get in the factories. I mean, he'd do the deal on the phone and say, well, I need you to sign this. Can I come and do it? So it was great.
Doing well.
We also did a great interview with Tony Dale on the TT 1300 machine, which is a new twin turret, twin spindle turning centre. It's equipped with 2 Y-axis, 1 top turret and 1 on the bottom as well. So you've got the ability to really balance out. When you look at a Y-axis, you look at it and you go, okay, that can do certain things. So if I need to do those certain operations, I've got to do them on the top turret. But now if you've got a Y-axis on top and bottom, you can go, actually, do you know what? I'll fit that machining operation in wherever it fits. And the TT 1300 twin turret, twin spindle, 42mm bar. You've got the option to go for up to 52mm bar, so you can really start tackling those 2-inch jobs. That's a machine that's in stock as well, and a machine that is full of technology. So those 2 machine reviews will be coming to the channel very soon. Final point I wanted to make, we were also at Arrow Precision in Hinckley today, where they've got a big Studer S41 cylindrical grinding machine and used for large workpieces and complex grinding jobs, which you would expect from Studer, because Studer is one of these brands that you kind of, when it comes to cylindrical grinding, you go into machine shops and you see a Studer and you know it's going to be delivering to surface finish, don't you? And to tolerance. You just look at it and you go, that's kind of like, we talked about Merc earlier, but it's
a different level, isn't it, Paul? Because I think that the machine tools, the milling machines and the turning machines now with hard turning capabilities, are capable of turning and milling to very tight tolerances and fantastic surface finishes. So when you think of a Studer, it's taken it to the very next level. There's still applications that require absolute precision and the perfect surface finish, not only over a short length, but over a long length or or over a great surface area too. And they're still required, Paul.
Yeah,
there's still a big need for these machines.
They are, and that was really in a sense our week this week, and it's been. Next week doesn't get any easier either, and we might even have semi-finals to contend with halfway through. I know we're at Fannock, I'm at Middlesex Aerospace. I mean, we've got so many visits lined up in the diary.
I've got one point to make, Paul. If England and Italy do get to the final, if Sky Sports are watching, for a small fee, we'd be more than happy to come and commentate and come to the game.
You say that, and I know I saw your photos from the day you were at Wembley, and I was there as well. It was terrific to see. You could see the platform where where Rio Ferdinand, when I was there, Alan Shearer, Gary Lineker, and Jürgen Klinsmann.
Yeah,
was it Klinsmann? Yeah, they were doing the commentary. Yeah. They were there 2 hours before. You could see them doing all the test runs, and it just reminded. It's like when we set up a live show, isn't it? It's
brilliant.
No different. Brilliant. Gary, 1 2 1 2, and even when they were even. Again, you were waving and what have you, and they were very accommodating too.
And when we left, we actually met Joe Cole and Glenn Hoddle too. It was a great day, great day.
So in amongst all of this football punditry, I hope you've enjoyed this week's Friday on the road with MTDCNC. I did end last week's show by talking about something that I'd seen on Lad Bible, and it was funny this week because you weren't there, Gia, but we were at ETG and we were talking to Chloe. And said, did you? What was it called? The Sniper's Nightmare. I said, did you hear about the Sniper's Nightmare? She goes, no, but I know something about a sniper. I was like, what's that? She said, well, what's yours? I said, Sniper's Nightmare. Where Bob's left to right, and that's what they called him, Sniper's Nightmare. Yeah. Well, you see, the thing is, my brother-in-law, we call him a sniper's dream. I was like, what do you mean? She said, well, he's got a massive head. So we'll conclude this show on a similar theme to the last one. Don't forget, you can join us every Friday evening at 6 o'clock, where we talk about what we've been up to on the road. Gia, have you got any final points you want to make on this show?
I think you've rounded it up perfectly, Paul. Brilliant. Thanks.
I know you've got a podcast with DMG Maury on Monday.
Yeah, that'd be great. So make sure you subscribe to the MTD podcast. Is probably my final thoughts. There's some great content out on the podcast.
There
channels.
is. Well, we've got the Haas one as well coming out,
and that's going to be a fantastic. That's due to come out now on the 2nd of August. There's a big queue now. We've got Williams Racing podcast that's going to be coming soon too. It's a busy time at MTD.
It is good stuff, and good luck for Italy tonight.
Thanks,
so that's it for this week's On the Road with MTDCNC. Join us the same time next week, 6 o'clock on Friday.
Thanks for listening listening to the MTD podcast. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Find more episodes on mtdcnc.com.